In 1919, the city of Boston experienced one of the strangest disasters in American history. Without warning, a giant steel tank exploded. But instead of water, a massive wave of molasses rushed through the streets. The sticky flood destroyed buildings, crushed horses and wagons, and trapped people beneath thick brown syrup. Witnesses described hearing a roar before the wave tore through the neighborhood. Some people were swept away instantly. Others became trapped so deeply in the molasses that rescuers struggled to pull them free. By the end of the disaster, 21 people were dead, and Boston would never forget the day the city drowned in molasses. Stay until the end, because the eyewitness descriptions from survivors of the molasses flood still sound unbelievable today.
Help! We're trapped! It's rising! Move! Move this way! Push through! Ah! It's too deep! Don't stop! Keep going!
In the early 1900s, industrial alcohol production became extremely important in the United States. Molasses was one of the key ingredients used to produce alcohol and explosives during World War I. To store enormous amounts of molasses, the United States Industrial Alcohol Company built a gigantic steel storage tank in Boston's North End neighborhood. The tank stood nearly 50 feet tall and held more than 2 million gallons of molasses. Residents living nearby sometimes complained about strange noises coming from the structure. Some witnesses later claimed the tank leaked regularly. Children reportedly collected dripping molasses from cracks in the steel walls. But despite warning signs, the tank remained in operation. Then on January 15, 1919, everything changed. On January 15, 1919, Boston experienced an unusually warm winter day. Inside the giant steel tank, thousands of gallons of fresh molasses had recently been delivered and pumped into storage. Then suddenly, at approximately 12:30 p.m., residents heard a deep rumbling sound echo across the north end. The giant tank exploded violently. Steel plates ripped apart with enormous force. Witnesses described hearing sounds similar to machine gun fire as metal bolts shot through the air. Then came the wave. More than 2 million gallons of molasses burst into the streets at terrifying speed. The sticky brown flood reached heights of nearly 25 feet in some areas. The wave smashed buildings off foundations, destroyed wagons, and swept people through the streets before they could react. Some victims were crushed instantly beneath debris. Others became trapped inside the thick syrup as it hardened in the cold winter air. Panic consumed the neighborhood. The molasses flood moved differently from water. It was thick, heavy, and dangerously sticky. As temperatures dropped later in the day, the syrup became even more difficult to escape. People trapped inside the flood struggled desperately to move. Some survivors later described feeling as though they were trapped inside quicksand. Horses pulling wagons became stuck and unable to escape. Rescue workers rushed into the disaster zone attempting to save victims trapped beneath debris and molasses. Police officers, firefighters, soldiers, and ordinary civilians joined the rescue effort. But moving through the thick syrup became almost impossible. Rescuers used ropes, ladders, wooden boards, and axes, searching for survivors beneath collapsed buildings. Many victims suffocated or became crushed before help could reach them. The disaster scene became horrifyingly silent except for rescue crews shouting through the sticky ruins. When the rescue operation finally ended, 21 people were dead. More than 150 others had been injured. The victims included workers, children, firefighters, teamsters, and ordinary civilians caught in the streets during the explosion. Entire buildings had been destroyed. Train tracks were damaged. The neighborhood became covered in thick brown syrup. Cleanup crews spent weeks removing molasses from streets, homes, buildings, and harbor waters. Even years later, some Boston residents claimed the streets still smelled faintly of molasses during hot summer days. Newspapers across America covered the bizarre disaster extensively. Many people struggled to believe such a tragedy could even happen. But for the survivors of Boston's North End, the disaster became a traumatic memory they would never forget. After the disaster, investigators searched for answers. How could a giant industrial tank explode in the middle of Boston? The United States Industrial Alcohol Company claimed anarchists may have sabotaged the structure, but investigators eventually uncovered serious engineering failures. Reports suggested the tank had been poorly designed and dangerously tested. Some experts believed the steel walls were too thin to safely contain enormous pressure inside the tank. Witnesses also reported long-term leaks and strange noises before the disaster. The case eventually became one of the first major class action lawsuits in American history. Thousands of pages of testimony and evidence were presented during years of legal battles. Eventually, the company was found responsible for the disaster and forced to pay damages to victims and families. As chaos consumed Boston's North End, ordinary people became heroes. Police officers, firefighters, sailors, doctors, and civilians rushed into the sticky disaster zone, risking their own lives to save survivors. Some rescuers tied ropes around their bodies before entering deep molasses-covered streets, so others could pull them back out safely. Firefighters used ladders and wooden planks to move across the thick syrup without becoming trapped themselves. Doctors treated victims suffering broken bones, suffocation, shock, and hypothermia during the freezing winter conditions. Nearby residents opened homes and shelters for survivors covered head to toe in sticky molasses and debris. Despite the danger, rescue workers continued searching the ruins for days, hoping to find survivors buried beneath collapsed buildings and hardened syrup. Boston would later remember these rescuers as heroes who entered one of the strangest disaster scenes in American history. In the days following the disaster, Boston's North End looked almost unrecognizable. Entire streets remained buried beneath thick brown syrup. Buildings, sidewalks, wagons, telephone poles, and harbor waters became coated in sticky molasses. Cleanup crews struggled to remove the hardened syrup from every surface in the neighborhood. Workers used seawater pumps, fire hoses, shovels, and sand trying to clear the streets. But the molasses spread everywhere. People tracked it into homes, streetcars, shops, and public buildings. Some residents later joked that Boston stayed sticky for years after the flood. Others claimed the smell of molasses remained in the neighborhood during hot summer days long after the disaster ended. For survivors, the strange smell became a permanent reminder of tragedy. The Great Molasses Flood exposed dangerous weaknesses in industrial safety and engineering standards across America. Investigators discovered the giant storage tank had likely never been properly tested before being filled with millions of gallons of molasses. Some engineers later believed the steel walls were dangerously thin and poorly constructed from the beginning. Witness testimony also revealed workers and residents had reported leaks and strange sounds from the tank long before the explosion. The disaster shocked engineers nationwide. If one industrial tank could suddenly explode and destroy an entire neighborhood, what other dangerous structures existed across America? After the flood, building inspections, engineering regulations, and industrial safety standards became increasingly important in the United States. The disaster helped push America towards stronger engineering oversight and accountability. More than a century later, the Great Molasses Flood still feels impossible to believe. A giant wave of molasses racing through city streets, destroying buildings, killing innocent people, and trapping an entire neighborhood beneath sticky brown syrup. But for the people of Boston in 1919, the horror was completely real. Families lost loved ones. Workers died beneath collapsing buildings. Children witnessed destruction that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. And survivors never forgot the terrifying sound of the tank exploding before the wave rushed toward them. Today, the Great Molasses Flood remains one of the strangest disasters in American history. But it also became an important warning about industrial negligence, ignored safety problems, and corporate responsibility. Because sometimes, the most unbelievable stories in history are completely true. The Great Molasses Flood proved that even the strangest disasters can become deadly tragedies. A disaster so bizarre that many people today still think it sounds fake. But behind the unbelievable story were real victims, real families, and real lives destroyed forever. And maybe the scariest part is this: the warning signs existed long before the tank exploded. But nobody stopped the disaster before it was too late. So what do you think? Could something like this still happen today because of ignored safety warnings and corporate negligence? Tell us your thoughts honestly in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this documentary, please like, share, follow, and support the page for more shocking true history documentaries and unbelievable historical disasters. And most importantly, tell us in the comment section, what strange, terrifying, or forgotten historical event should we uncover next? Because history is often stranger than fiction.